the convention where she's going to have to manage that. So she's got to, I don't know, do whatever girls do before they have a big thing.
She's got a busy day.
Yeah, she does. Day, so she does. Hopefully it calms down when this is done, but she signed up for all the political stuff and that's going to strap her. But we're going to start without her. We got Scott Wardle in. Wardle or
Wardle.
Wardle.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time I get that wrong, and I'll tell you why. Because years and years ago, I had a friend named, spelled the same, but she liked it Wardle. And she would correct me. So now I've got to get corrected every time. And then if I ever run into her again, she's going to say, no, it's this. So
now tell her. You got the right one. I'm just kidding.
But yeah. Anyways, so you are the incumbent for the county council.
Correct.
And District 1.
Yes.
And you're running to retain that seat. And we've had you on before. You talked about the fiscal stuff that you guys have done, which to me sounds heavenly. Matter of fact, if I could bundle you up right now and ship you to DC and have you straighten them out, I would, but that would just poison you.
I think it's sad that we're in that position because our nation's been founded upon good principles. And I think whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat,
pull that microphone right up to the edge of the table.
Whether you're Republican or Democrat, we have gone against what is just basic sound fiscal doctrine.
Yeah.
And until we get back to that, I don't know how we recover the trajectory we're on. Because you can't be everything to everyone. And that to me is one of the hardest parts of these discussions is there has to be a time when you say no, and we don't like no.
Yeah. Or a time when you say, that's not in our purview as
correct
this body.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It'd be like if my street alone wanted the county to take on just my street, not even my street, just my block, you know, my little strip from other cross street to cross street to say, just us, we want trees, take care of us. And you guys go, okay, we're going to turn and take all of the county budget, which is broader. I'm inside of a city, which is separate from the county. I mean, it's together, but it's separate.
Absolutely.
But we're going to take all of our resources and focus on this one little area that's just going to affect these few people to buy votes, you know, say you want it. And that's exactly what we're getting with the federal government. Like with Joe Biden on the college debt, you know, he's going to he keeps teasing it. I don't know if he will or can, but that's a problem that was initiated under FDR. When FDR started taking over stuff, he really initiated taking over stuff outside of federal government purview, spread it out eventually under Clinton. He said, okay, I think it was Clinton. Yeah. We said, we're going to federally guarantee student loans. Mm-hmm. The colleges said I'll bet they had parties. I'll bet every college administration just had blowout parties that night because they said we can build a new building and staff it with degrees that don't matter, that don't pay, because morons are going to be showing up and studying whatever, you know.
You know, it's interesting because I was going to school during that time. And I came from a family that didn't have wealth. Mm-hmm. I had done some things that allowed me to have scholarships my first 2 years. And then I decided to retire or stop doing that. And I had student loans going into for my bachelor's degree. And the thing that was really helpful to me is I had to own my education then. It was mine. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't going to, my parents weren't going to bail me out. So I took it really seriously. I had a lot of fun in college, but I think there's something to be said when you invest in you and not worry about someone saying, well, you made an investment, so I'm going to bail you out. I think that's what got us in trouble in 2008 when we had the second worst economic collapse in the United States history, when we started bailing out some companies that, to be very honest, may have been better off going away.
It would have definitely been better off for our economy.
And so when we talk about these different things, it's problematic. Now there will be some who will say, yeah, but Scott, you've always voted for RDAs and other things. I've got my critics on that. And my reply to that would be, but we never made deals that sold our city down the river. So for instance, when Cabela's came in, to get Cabela's to come to Tooele County, there had to be incentives because that's how the game works. And we offered them decreased land prices, but most of what happened was post-performance. If you were going to receive tax increment that was going to be held in reserve, you had to perform and hire a certain amount of people at a certain wage, and that it would be guaranteed and you wouldn't receive anything until after. I think we saw the problem with that on front loading ATI with their incentives. And then when, and I look at those things, I think we see them through a different mindset at times. I've heard my critics say, well, we've been recruiting businesses to come to Tooele County for the last 4 years, or to Tooele City or Grantsville City, and we didn't give them any incentives. And I almost think that's too nuanced, because no, they didn't receive cash, but they did receive write down in property. So if I'm buying the property, I'm going to write it down $20,000 an acre.
Yeah.
I'm going to give water as an incentive. So again, it's not cash, but do you know what water sells for an acre foot right now?
I don't, but it hasn't been cheap in ever.
No, it's 35,000 an acre foot. So if a business needs 100 acre feet of water, well, you've just written down $3.5 million, $350,000.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I've got my math right. And there's a good chance I don't have my math right. but so I think that when we sit down and we talk about what do we do as a government, I think not only do you have to look at return on investment, you have to look at what the cost benefit analysis is. You also have to understand that when you make investments with businesses, you make investments in people, that you are guided by good vision and principles and not by emotion entirely. So.
I don't feel as much heartburn when the city or the county makes a deal to bring in a business, because a business employs people, and also business sells stuff.
Yeah.
So they get to pay some taxes on sales, which hopefully down the line leads to my taxes not having to go up to afford a growing city with more, because I'm not saying that, property taxes and that are a waste, but sales tax help offset the taxes to maintain the region you're in.
Well, as you say that, Jared, one of the things that's important to understand with economics and the economics of this county and cities is, it's about $1.40 for every home built to provide the service. And the only way you really do write that down is by having sales tax, or you bring in businesses. And I'll use Cabela's as the example, because I think we're a county that really supports that business. Not that we don't support others, but they invested $55 million, which includes all of the products, the shelving, the manufacturing, the forklifts. All of that is property tax. So when you've got this imbalance of too much housing and not enough sales tax and not enough manufacturers or business tax, professional plazas, then you're going to have that higher subsidy come out of the citizens' own property tax. And that's an imbalance we have got to fix. I was in some meetings last week with the aerospace defense and drone industry, unmanned aircraft industry. And I've got to say, I feel bad. because I missed something, and I've been missing it for 15 years.
What's that?
20% of our state's income comes from aerospace industry.
Really?
Do you know how much of our local area business products are from aerospace?
We used to have Decoy out in Skull Valley. Do we even have any of that?
We are missing it. I would say we're less than 2%.
So how do we get Northrop to build a warehouse out here to put together rockets?
I think that that's what we'll be doing for the next 4 years. So I was tasked with
Because,
research.
I mean, it's perfect. Or even South area.
Well, you've got South area. So when we talk about defense and aerospace, manufacturing components, 3D printing, when we talk about Northrop Grumman, I toured a facility that makes the flashing on the outside of the wing that bends into where the flaps are.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the products that we can build within our area. The other thing is when we look at tech industry, I know that we've got the tech corridor in Lehigh and some other places it's popping up. Semiconducting has always been a water intensive process.
Yes. Yeah.
I toured a facility last week where hardly any water is needed.
Really?
That's how we can.
How are they cooling it?
They're using internal cooling. It is a technology that has been developed in Asia. And so if we can bring those sort of industries here, get our people off the roads. We have 74% of our workforce that commutes to Salt Lake.
I know, that's killing us. Salt Lake's they're getting our gas money.
Correct.
They're getting our lunch money. They're getting all of that. And so, yeah, that is killing us. I would like to, if they've got a new way to cool it, it could be whatever it is, oil or.
Yeah, it's a proprietary tech, but it's working, and it's working in places like Taiwan and in some of the new places that have been designated by the government as tech corridors, Texas, for instance. And so we've got to go look, and as a government, I am running, so I'm going to talk about some things that I think we need to do. That's been part of my task assignment for my fellow council members, is to go look at this, figure out how we can incorporate it into our economic development plan. How do we incorporate it to our areas of manufacturing? And one of the most important things that we need to do is partner with our defense partners in Dugway, particularly. And this one was really kind of cool. I was having discussions with a company that builds unmanned vehicles. And are you ready for possibly one of our big developmental areas?
What do we got?
The historic Wendover Airport.
Oh, perfect.
To test those kind of vehicles in that environment that then can build manufacturing, housing, parts.
And give Utah Wendover a little bit of life.
Exactly. So those are areas when I talk about economic development that we're focused on. We also talk about recreation. We had a great discussion last time when I was here about recreation and eco development, and we've made just incredible investments in that area. And hopefully within 2 years we'll have all the improvements taken care of, and we'll see our sports teams succeeding off the charts because we're not limited on field space for people to practice on, that we'll be able to have teams that can come here and we can host weekend tournaments that sell out our hotels, all of our parking places, that eat at all of our restaurants. Those are the things that we're really looking at. So,
yeah, make us kind of a tourist area.
Yeah.
I heard once upon a time they tried building a ski resort over here on this side of the mountain.
I was on city council when that discussion happened.
Yeah.
So there was a discussion, at least during my time frame, around 2005.
I heard years earlier,
his
60s or 70s.
Yeah, Ski Hill up Settlement Canyon. Yeah. Have you ever been up to Ski Hill?
I have. Well, I'm sure I've been up there, but they talked about building a ski resort. But where ski resorts are very cost intensive.
Yep.
But there's no reason why we can't open up some sports venues out here.
Well, I think we'll see more of that. In fact, the Griffith family has made a great investment not too far from your house in their recreation, indoor recreation that's got AstroTurf.
Yeah, right over there by
Yeah.
the TATC.
And one of the things that I think is a value that we believe as a council, I know I firmly believe it, is private sector does it better than government.
Mhm.
And what private sector can do, we should let them do because they do it better. And government, when we do it, it costs us more. It is more labor intensive. And at the end of the day, we just don't run it as well.
That is also true because you've got other objectives.
Correct.
Whereas if the Griffiths open this building up and they say, okay, here's the needs we're going to meet. We're going to hire people that can facilitate meeting those needs and control it. Where at the same time, if you were to do it, you've also got to go, all right, how's our trash pickup doing? How's our county protection, security, and law enforcement? How's, all this and everything else? You've got other things on the table. So I agree with that.
And we see, when one of the discussions when I first got into government was we should build a rec center. And I understood all the reasons why. It failed on a bond vote. And the discussions continued. And here's what's happened because of those discussions. In every community, we now have a business that people can go and work out at.
Mm-hmm.
We have private industry, whether it's down on the old Army Depot or here in Tooele City, who have now opened facilities for practice fields, for indoor playing fields to help our teams grow. Those people are employing people, and regardless of what happens, government building those kinds of facilities, they do not make money.
No.
But in this other way, not only is a company making money, they're adding investment to the community. They're investing in people who are employed there. And then on top of it, they're able to help people grow in a way that government's limited, because government is limited in what they can do.
Yeah. So, well, even on that, it would be cheaper for the government to find an existing privately owned rec center and say, we'll make an investment so that you maybe lower the price for our citizens $1 or whatever. That'd be even cheaper because you don't carry the liability of it.
Yeah.
All that.
Ships are so critical. And, I looked at one in northern Utah where they had taken an old, smaller grocery store that they just couldn't get anyone to come in and rent it and release the space. So the city and a private owner went into business together and put indoor pickleball courts.
That's a hot commodity right now.
It's a great idea.
I've never played pickleball, but that everyone talks about it like it's the best sport to come along since hacky sack or something.
Yeah, and Utah is one of the capitals of the United States with it. So there's some just initial thoughts on those topics.
David says, I suggest making alcohol a private industry if you want the normal population to live in Utah. Agree or disagree? I don't know how much pull a county councilman would have on the DABC.
Yeah, the state, we have no pull.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm pretty familiar with those who run DABC, and I think the loosening of those restrictions has helped businesses over the last little while.
And they keep loosening a little bit every year. We had that wall that popped in, what was it?
The Zion Curtain.
Yeah. What was that? 2016, 17.
And they started pulling that back.
But then they saw, one, it's a terrible burden on the restaurants.
Yep.
It's a burden on, everything. So they've started drawing that back. And I think we'll see that fully go away soon. Holly is here now. So I'll bring her on camera here in just a second. First, she will obviously want to
headphones on today.
You're not gonna mess up your hair today.
Well, Holly, I thought the same thing about me. I wasn't gonna mess up my hair.
I'm glad that you took the risk.
So
for you, you're such a adventurer. Okay.
But yes, Holly's here, and I'm gonna turn on her microphone.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, they'll be seeing you here in just a second. All right. Boom. Holly's in.
So if I could just say hi, everybody, and hello. Thank you, Councilman Wardle. I appreciate you being here, and please accept my apology. I have got an errand full day. And
What shoes you wearing today?
all the red, white, blues, of
Oh,
course.
okay, perfect.
Well, I want to thank you because I know how busy my day is in preparing for a convention. I can't even imagine yours. So thank you for being willing to sit down.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I love serving this community. I know you have been
Yeah.
in service of this community for so long. How many years in total? And if we don't count your teaching, but more like your
Public
public
service.
service,
I've been in public service for 19 years.
19 years, folks.
So I spent 15 years on the Tooele City Council. And then I've been in this position. I'm in my 4th year right now.
So I listened to the show on my way in,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want to like double question you about stuff. I know you guys talked about the economics and the
Mhm.
stuff. I don't know how much you dove into all the work that you got.
We haven't gone into any of that.
But
I steered
would
him away
love-
till you got here.
I would love to kick it off by saying that, and you know this because I was very upfront about this. On behalf of the party, I went to all the changing of the
Mhm.
government meetings. I was highly vocal because of my concerns of the reasons behind it, and did this change actually prohibit those reasons behind it? And the party, I think, was pretty split, and the public was not. So it won. It won, and I support the people. That's who I represent, is the Republicans voters. I was blown away because I'll be honest, I expected chaos.
Mhm.
I expected, I know what it's like with 3 county commissioners, and I've seen them at their worst and at their best because they're people. And I thought that we would be lacking in a seat at the table on the state's point of view. And you know that because I
Yeah.
addressed that right up front. I know you all have full-time jobs.
Mhm.
I also know that you're putting in far more hours than I think the public realizes, more than a part-time. And I know you're not making what the average council is
Yeah.
making. But I have to know, because I know it's collaboration. I know it's teamwork. I know you all have different opinions, but I have to eat the humble pie because I watched 5 men come together, disagree behind closed doors, which it really never was. You guys have been transparent. You have your business meetings in the public view, which are usually the ones that you're not voting. It's the discussion and it's the bickering or debating, I like to call it.
Yeah.
So it's out there for everyone to see. I've just attended many of those. And then you have your public meetings at 7 p.m. on the 3rd Tuesday of every month, right?
Yeah.
First and third.
First and third, yeah.
And yet you come together, and I think that Chairman, Hamner has done a great job, and you have a cohesive group. And I guess this is a way down the well, but will you walk me through this? Because I'm still baffled to this day how you guys started a brand new change of government, adding 2 more people, going part-time.
Yeah. I think that I love the question because the process was really important. And in our first two or three meetings, we came to a certain agreement. Here was the agreement. The citizens are always first. It's not us. It's not political agendas. It's the citizenry. Number 2, we believe that good policy comes from good debate, which comes from good data, and data that contradicts our personal opinions. So we take all things into consideration.
You basically use data to prove you wrong.
Either prove what we believe
Yeah.
to be true.
Show me how I'm wrong.
Yeah. Or we
show
see
me
that
how
we're
I'm
wrong
right.
and we change our minds.
Yeah.
We also agreed that, and I learned this in my last term on city council, and I'll be the first one to say that I always didn't behave and didn't understand this. I think wisdom comes with age.
That's
But
true. It's very true.
Well,
For some of us.
I'm going to say
it's
I'm a
some of us.
young man here, so
but I learned that you didn't have to dislike the person just because you disagreed with the idea. And
or dislike the idea because you dislike the person.
yeah, I mean, and that's been something that I really wish I would have known my first term on city council. I would have, because I believe this. I believe in the market, in the public space, you have to have debate.
I agree.
Good policy comes from good debate, which comes from differing ideas, but you can't just debate just because it's debate. The difference between opinions, and I think everyone has an opinion, everyone's entitled to an opinion. I think that's critical.
That's America.
Yeah.
That's what a republic is.
But it's the obligation of elected officials to move beyond opinion to data and be willing to be questioned and be willing to have data challenged. And if your data and your decision is correct, the data you're challenged with will not bear out. And so that's been something. I think the other thing that we decided is, and this is something that Holly, you and I had a couple of conversations early on that were hard conversations. And I remember going home, and my wife will tell you this. I stay up very late when I've had hard conversations, replaying them. But I said, if there was a vote to change the government, there was a reason why, and we are not trusted.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we have an obligation in how we discuss, where we discuss, who's involved in the discussions, to be as transparent as possible so no one can question, where there was a lot of questioning prior, how deals were being made.
It's
and
true.
we have done that. We've, all of our budget meetings are online, and I would encourage anyone to watch our budget meetings. They're informative. There's great debate at times in them. You'll see us disagree. And I believe as elected leaders that it is our obligation to passionately argue the case for our citizenry.
Well, and you have a lot of different departments
We do.
that have to come before and figure out their budgets, bring them into you guys. You guys are legislators. You're no longer administrators.
Mm-hmm.
So now that change of government that we have allows for our county council to focus on the legislation part, and it allows our electeds to focus on their own departments and then come together at these budget meetings. And even when the commission was there, I would be sitting in on budget meetings, and yes, those are sparks, and there's a lot going on, and every department's fighting for their budget, right?
Yeah.
But I watched, again, even through our county commissioners and now through this, there's a come together moment, and it's almost like it's a light where you go, we did it. We balanced. Not only did we balance, we cut and we saved.
Yeah.
And we're going to be in good shape when we revisit this in July. And what's so funny is if our federal government, even our state government, ran their budget the way our county council does, we would be in phenomenal shape.
Well, as you say that, I think it's important to know that we're stuck in an antiquated mode of budgeting right now in government. And academia and those who look at how to run governments do not agree with what many are stuck in. It's called incremental budgeting.
Yeah.
And the incremental budgeting is...
This is the R-rated part of the show, folks. Go on, Scott.
So incremental budgeting takes place when you look at what the cost of living index is, and you say, okay, we're going to add 2% because the cost of living went up 2%. I'm using that as an example because it's been horrible the last 3 years. So we're going to increase every department's line item and bottom line by 4%. But what we haven't done is we haven't looked at those increases based upon what are our goals, what are our priorities, and what are we accomplishing, and what are the measurables for those accomplishments.
Right. How can we show the data again?
So in our second budget, it was a fireworks meeting. I loved every minute of it. I think our county staff was shocked at the bluntness that we had with one another and with our manager's office, and we appreciate our manager's office. I want you to know, totally tangentially, our elected officials are wonderful to work with. I don't know if we always communicate the best way when we talk, and we've gotten a lot better the last 2 years. But when we introduced priority budgeting, everyone was skeptical.
Yeah. Well, it's government.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're changing the way things are done.
You're going to change, and we're going to lay people off. Those are the concerns, and those are real valid concerns. But what we showed is we did a test case just with one department. We found a 20%, I don't want to say it's savings, but we found 20% of the money that had been allocated wasn't being spent year over year over year.
Don't most
20%.
departments
20%. Now,
That is
don't they
1/5.
usually in business, don't they usually, or in government, don't they rush to spend it so they get the same amount next year?
they're supposed to. Yeah, that's what incremental budgeting
But
does.
I don't love it. I don't love
Yeah.
that they rush it. I like you guys where you're kind of looking at that, finding
20%
that
is
data.
huge.
That is a huge.
In that one department. Overall, we found between 15 and 20%. And here's why. The philosophy was sound, is that because politics can play into budgeting, departments were worried that they would not receive money in an emergency situation.
They were afraid they would fall short
Correct.
because someone was grandstanding
Or
or two people just had a disagreement
lawsuits,
up on
right?
the
or let's say that we have hard goods, tractors go down. And so they would use that as a protection. So what we set up is we said, first of all, we will guarantee your emergencies.
There you go.
And-
What, in like a rainy day fund?
Yeah, we have a fund balance, and then within that fund balance, we have a fund. We allocate those funds for capital projects and other items. So when people get up and say, "Well, I'm going to change budgeting," that's nuance. You just can't say that. You've
Yeah,
got
it
to be able to
terrifies
get in.
people.
Yeah, and so when we did that, and then we said, "Now state your goals." If you go on our website, every department's goals are listed in our budgeting documents. Transparency, and then the measurables.
Right. So you're
So-
actually keeping track of the
Yeah.
data
So
quarter by quarter.
like for instance, I can go to you and say this, here were the accomplishments in 2021, measurables. Okay.
Yeah.
We set up a new government, hired a county manager, successfully transferred the commission's administrative responsibilities. We created equitable contracts with municipalities for services. So county dollars were not being used to underwrite city services in any city.
Okay, guys, this is important because if you watched our Wednesday night show, this is what I'm talking about when I had mentioned what I noticed when these townships became cities and they weren't even sure what they wanted to do. And they were coming to the county and the county's like, wait, you became a city. This money now is allocated to our Stansbury Park and our unincorporated areas.
Yeah.
Because they're county, you're now a city. And so that right there is all of those funds get answered for. You lose that revenue from that city,
Correct.
but you also save that.
So then what we did is we charged for services. And because we were running a government, if you're doing an enterprise outside your jurisdiction. So when I was with Tooele City and we were providing sewer for Deseret Peak, it was outside the city limits. You charge a premium.
Sure.
We receive at least 8 to 10% back on all those contracts.
I think Grantsville charges a premium to UMC.
So we retired 2 bonds early, which allowed us to set up the bonding for Deseret Peak last year.
Yeah,
So
without
that-
raising taxes.
Without raising taxes, we did temporary agreements to increase public safety in the south end of the valley with each of the fire stations because they are going out on calls and they weren't receiving the money that should have been and rightly been adjusted to them. And
by
then-
who?
From
By
the county.
Okay, I see.
So, for instance, if Vernon City, this is what happens, if they respond to a call that is getting close to the county line of a vehicle that is rolled over,
Yeah,
they-
like an off-roading tourist
then-
or something.
then that's a cost to their city.
Mm.
Well, but it's in the county.
Isn't it under sheriff's? Isn't that sheriff's department
it's
in
sheriff's
Vernon?
department, but their fire department's responding, and they were getting so little per call. So we did a fire study, and we set a new base rate, which allowed them to buy equipment, do training, upgrade facilities, so that they're getting that income stream that they should rightly get.
Right. And
So
in the
we're-
long run, you're
yeah,
saving money.
because they might be responding out there on 36
Correct.
by
And it
the
could save a
railroad
life.
tracks, which is well outside of their city.
Correct.
Okay.
And so then, and I think it's important to understand, and you guys have said this on your program before, and I really appreciate it. We are very much a data-driven council.
You are.
We had done 13 master studies.
I know. I'm surprised you haven't like pushed your glasses up on your nose yet, or
Nerd.
no pocket
No,
protector. You've shown up just not representing what you guys really are.
We are nerds, and we are data nerds, and we dig in very hard. So once we finished 2021 and setting up the new government, so it took us 2020 and 2021.
Can I add something? We're missing the fact that COVID is going on through all of this. And I'm curious because I know that municipalities got funding for COVID. And how did that fit in when you guys were going through all of this? Did you separate the funds so that you aren't still working off of COVID budgetary times,
we
or
did.
are you pre-COVID times now?
So our value is this: one-time funds are for one-time projects.
Oh, that's kind of logical.
So
that to everyone.
Yeah.
Let's remember, the United States Marine Corps this year passed its audit. It is the only thing in the Department of Defense that has in 28 years, I think.
But most budgets right now are still on COVID level budgets.
because they
they
put
won't
it into their day-to-day ops.
Yep. And they like it.
And then you see taxes increase. So our principle was, no, we're not doing that.
Well, and also they fold and do things that say the federal government wants some weird thing done. They're like, oh, we'll keep doing that.
Absolutely. But then it comes with cost because
Absolutely.
you're always paying. I don't care what you do. There is no free government money.
You hear that, folks? We need to repeat that. Your student loans aren't free.
So when we do road projects, for instance, we got $18 million to redo the road from IPA to IPAPA from the Wendover. That was a significant amount of money, but we're still putting up money for that.
Yeah, a significant amount.
When we just received a $5 million grant to widen Drew Bay. And when we say widen, we're not putting a new lane down. We're going to widen each of the shoulders. We will be putting a paved trail down. So it goes to another one of our goals and values, and that is that we create recreation opportunities for our citizens within the county that connect everyone in the county.
That's brilliant.
People love jogging on Drewby, and no, that's a good
And
idea
walking
because
their
right now,
dogs or riding
you've
horses,
got to have a leg shorter than the other,
Correct.
and you've got to really like staring at alpacas.
Yeah. And it, when you say that, Jared, we want safety. One of the things that government should be really good at, and this is at the bottom of all of our resolutions. It's at the bottom of all of our ordinances. It was that way at Tooele City, is that anything we do should be for the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens.
Again, logical.
And so if you use those as governing principles, it helps to weed things out. And so when we talk about accomplishments, you'll sit in a budget meeting and we'll look at our manager and say, okay, is this doable? We've done some things that are different. We no longer do in-house project management on large projects. We build that into the contract because it's more economical. And if you think about it, you're not tying up your employee that should be doing something else and so you're becoming more efficient.
And you're probably getting a few bids and you're contracting local probably.
Yeah.
And you're establishing our economy and you're saving the taxpayers money. And this is something I really love about, I find it in all of you. It's always we.
Yeah.
It's incredible because you all are in charge of certain departments. You all advise, you all have your own tasks, but it is so rare. When I talk to Jared about anything, it's we.
Because
You have said we probably 30 times.
Well, and each council member has a specialty. Like I'll give you this one. Ty Hoffman came to the council with the county cleanup, but we work on it together. But I'm going to give Ty props. That was his idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we need to advertise that too. I promised him after convention, we'll get you on here to talk more about that.
One of the areas that I spent, because I got challenged on it, was this change from incremental budgeting to priority-based budgeting. And one of my favorite parts of it is when I got challenged, I said, okay, I started going to academia and I went through academic journals to see what they said in a variety of journals. So I wasn't picking and choosing my position. And I don't know if anyone's ever read an academic journal.
I'm already asleep.
Okay. But not only did we build the case for it, we learned so much in how to do it. And so when you asked about ARPA funds, the governor asked us when the ARPA funds first came in 2021 or 2020. No, 2021. But it's right at the end of there. It was October. He said, build legacy projects. Deseret Peak, $14 million that are going into the $40 million investment are from those funds, legacy funds for legacy projects for our kids.
For all of the county to enjoy.
Yes. And then we also built the business model around it and the strategy, which was it would become the center of ecotourism for our county.
Is that where we're talking about the Romney property or
across the street
across
from
the
the
street?
Yeah. So ecotourism is where you use recreation.
Right.
So all of our ecotourism flows out of Deseret Peak. We have trails that will flow to every community. Romney's, if you go by their property, you'll see they have a paved trail where it connects with our paved trail. Last year, we paved the 5-mile stretch in Tooele City that now allows you to get on and ride on those back areas. We're going to continue to go through that.
Stansbury was always meant to have walking trails around it from the very beginning, and they'll just tie right in then.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
So now you're seeing we're connecting communities. I think the other thing that became very, very, very important to us when we talk about transparency, and I think that sometimes people mistake conflict for contention.
That's fair. Well, and let's just be honest. If anyone knows Scott, you're a very passionate person. Highly passionate.
Yes.
I think that is something that comes out in you, and it's something that if people don't know it, they're kind of shocked by it, because you normally are very soft-spoken and reasonable and thoughtful, and when you get passionate, it can. I mean, I know a few
it can
people
look pretty hard.
like that. Yeah.
You know, I found this quote from a political scientist. Can I just share it with you?
Please.
Yeah.
He said this: the finest friends must sometimes be stern sentinels who will insist that we become what we have the power to become. The no of such stern sentinels is more to be prized than the yes of others. If we are going to stand as vanguards for the taxpayer, and we believe this, and I think you see it in the culture of the county, the government doesn't exist because the county needs it.
No.
The government exists because the county exists.
Right.
And anytime
And you need the people.
But when we take tax dollars, they're not ours. So we have to stop talking about it as, well, this is our general fund. No, it's not. It's the taxpayers, and we take it by force.
You're right. We
Man,
often
I'm
say
so clipping. It's not ours.
it's gun to our
I'm
head.
just going to send that to everyone in
You know-
government beyond this county. We take it by force. That's another thing that I don't think is recognized
No.
outside of
Our bubble.
these small governments.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I don't know how often you watch the show, but we find that a lot of the people who watch our show, not that don't live in our county, they literally think we're making it up. That we feel like we are in a really special place because, I mean, you look at this election, we've got one race.
Mhm.
We've got a tremendous county clerk, and her department is tremendous.
Yep.
We've got an amazing county manager. Our county council has done incredible things. Our sheriff has done incredible things.
Yeah.
The surveyor, now the assessor, she's new to the office,
Mhm.
and I'd appreciate it if they would just bring the assessment a little bit down because taxes hurt. But it's such a cohesive, and it feels like everyone's on the same team. And
Yeah.
even I was in a meeting yesterday with the chamber that Jared hosted with all the legislators going over session. And I know you guys work with these legislators closely.
Well, and the accusation that and this is a good accusation. I've got to say this. Our elected leaders differ with us, but we are differing in good ways. Because they should. Their job is to passionately advocate for their office.
It's true.
But when we sit down and we talk about, okay, you're a part-time government, so we're not on the Hill. And I heard this comment recently. No, I am on the Hill. I'm on the Hill twice a week. But I'm also staying at work for an extra 3 hours so I can be on the Hill. I'm on the Hill in Zoom meetings as I'm doing other things in my paperwork. I am constantly talking. I'll share this with you. So I'm a religious educator by trade, and I teach at the university adjacent to the University of Utah. I'm the associate director of the Institute of Religion, which we have almost 3,000 students. I'm in charge of all the curriculum. I'm in charge of all the class scheduling. I'm in charge of all the budgeting. I'm in charge of daily building operations and
It
employees.
seems like a nightmare to be working in a college, even though it's in a faith-based job. It feels like it would be a nightmare at the times we're living in.
Faith-based college sounds like an even bigger nightmare.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you're getting battled from two directions,
I love every
from the
minute of it.
religion and from the
secular
education side of it, and those two, especially over the last 40 years, have been at each other's throats.
Well, I will say this. We have great partners and have worked very hard with our partners at the University of Utah.
Go Utes.
So when I say this, what I'm going to say, I don't say this so anyone looks at me and goes, well, you're too busy to serve in government, or poor Scott. I get to work on Mondays about 8 a.m. and I finish teaching about 8 o'clock that night. And my tradition is if I make it through that day, I get to have a double cheeseburger from McDonald's. Okay.
If you make it through that day.
So I was in the drive-through at McDonald's ordering my double cheeseburger, and I got a call from the legislature. It was on a night of an extremely controversial topic that Tooele County had been brought into. I canceled my order, and I was on the Hill within 5 minutes, and I was there for another hour and a half.
You don't want to tell us what it was?
I do not.
Okay. Can I just say though, and this is for people, and I don't know if this county council had, because they are part-time and have full-time jobs, they had covered their bases by having someone lobby for them and give them that seat at the table. But that lobby is merely there to be the guide for you.
It is.
Because the lobbyists will call you and say, hey, Tooele County's on the docket today. We're going to need you to come up. And those of you that can be there are there. It's not like you just sit back and get a report at the end of session. I know that you are up there.
Yeah. And oftentimes the way that we work is we work with one-on-one phone calls. We'll meet for lunches. And so, to say that Tooele County and Holly, I think your criticism of the new form of government was taken very seriously by us. And I appreciated it, because what it said is, and I'd been in government before. I had been on the Hill a little bit as a city councilman, not a lot, but we were on the Hill. Yeah. And one of the examples is, and I hope the citizens understand this, is last year we had our funding for phase 2 and phase 3 of Mid-Valley Highway taken away from us from the Transportation Commission. And it was pushed out to 2038.
Why?
There were a lot of reasons.
They rank it on level of importance, which we learned through another project.
And being prepared to be shovel ready. And we weren't able to get an agreement between a lot of people on where the routing should be on phase 3 or phase 2, which is really the south end.
Yikes.
And so as soon as that money was taken, I sit on the Wasatch Front Regional Council's board of directors. We immediately came back, we met, we created a strategy. We used the lobbyists to help us implement that strategy. We had the Transportation Commission here in November. We are so grateful for the mayors who came and spoke on behalf of that. And hopefully that funding will be restored and our time frame is going to come back. We believe it will this year.
Well, that got fast tracked on its own because it was supposed to be a 20-year project, and it did take great collaboration. I know there's a lot of hands in that Mid Valley
Well,
Highway.
didn't they start it in the 70s?
Well,
I think
planning,
they planned it.
But when you talk about being a part-time councilman, even when I was with Tooele City, it was never part-time.
No.
I remember there was a period of about 3 months where I worked 40 hours a week at my job. I'd get off at 3 p.m. and I'd work till 9 or 10 at night on how we would work to solve some fiscal problems that came about because of a lawsuit.
You guys had a lot going on.
We did.
And I, like I said in the last interview, regarding Tooele City Council, my mother lives in Tooele City. And so when she did move here, that's when I started to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's when the taxes went up. And the one thing that is pretty extraordinary to me is here I'm ready to fight for these veterans and these people on Social Security and their property taxes and their houses paid off. I don't have to.
Yeah.
She gets a benefit for the veterans, and she gets a benefit being Social Security. So property taxes are not something that she is losing sleep over or going in debt over. And that's in Tooele City. And
yeah, I think, our philosophy as a council, we're in agreement on this, and we debate these things every year. What are our principles? What are our values? What are we going to guide the budget with? So for instance, our opening value on budget, and still is we will make the most effective and efficient use of the taxpayer's dollar. And now we will have excellence in services. So we're building, and we have great employees that assist in that. We don't have perfection. I don't know if you ever get to perfection, but I do know this, that we are striving for excellence every single day in our county government. And that when we fall short, we go through I call it a postmortem. When we fall short, we're going to go look at why. We're going to see how it fell apart or what didn't work. We're going to go fix it. And that doesn't mean that people are bad. It just means we're progressing. The term I love, and I write about this a lot. I'm in the middle of a doctorate in strategic leadership and business administration.
Is that all?
That's all. But I write about
full-time job, county council full-time, and he's getting a doctorate.
Well,
okay.
my wife will tell you, if I'm not busy, I'm a menace.
Does your wife even know you? Do you guys see each other?
All
you
the
guys
time.
are probably like teenagers dating. You're like once a couple times a week.
He's got a day off, and she's like, "You need to get out of this house."
Yeah, she's too used to it being empty.
Actually, she's the one who really encouraged me to get this doctorate.
I have no doubt.
And she said, but the term that I really use and I write a lot about is failing forward.
Brilliant.
If you're not innovating, you're not failing forward.
That is brilliant. That is such an easy way to tell people to keep going. And failure is a lesson. It's not defeat.
So when you see, and you're going to see that county governments made mistakes, I will tell all the citizenry, and I hope this is broadcast on radio stations and on TV and everywhere else. We will postmortem it. We will find out where the problem was. It will be corrected, so we never walk that road again. And that's why I think you see, when we do budget, we're going to put money in a place. We're going to say we're going to do it. We're going to do it. If we don't do it, then we're not doing our jobs.
Can I just say that this is why, and this is probably me just in my beliefs and in the stuff I personally believe in as a Republican, this is why I like it being a partisan race, because everything you just lined up is absolutely the principles of our platform. And that's easy to do. And you can represent an entire community, regardless of their political beliefs, based on those simple principles. And you're fair to everyone, and you're looking out for everyone, because everyone needs fiscal responsibility, even if they want more things or more, things. More, social programs or whatever.
But when we look at that, when I left the Tooele City Council that last year, I ran 2 resolutions that I had written a lot of law when I was with them, and we passed a lot of law on housing, on development, we wrote a law My daughter asked a question one day about smoke shops, and we wrote the first law west of the Mississippi on them because of my daughter's question. But two of the most important things, and they really do fall in line with the Republican principles. We wrote a resolution, and it was about the sanctity of life. And it was during, I heard you say the other night, the summer of love.
Yeah.
When the riots were happening, and how important life is for every person, born, unborn, race, color, creed, sex, every way that we talk about religion, life is important.
Yeah.
The second one was, and I love the writings of Arthur Brooks on this, about civility versus contempt. Civility is a term that we use to say that you and I are going to get along.
Mm-hmm.
That's not civility. Civility is in the moment of disagreement that I'm going to honor you as a human being.
Right.
Contempt is I'm going to destroy you as a human being. That is so much ingrained in our politics right now that we can't get anything done.
It's true.
And so just implementing those sort of things changes us. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have differing viewpoints. I as I listened the other night about the protests during that summer, and I appreciate Tony's statement that he stands up for the First Amendment. I will fight to the death for any man on the First Amendment, especially if we disagree, especially. But he and I disagree on that. And we disagreed because of nuance.
You disagreed on walking in protest.
Absolutely.
And rather than, I know this is something too that I know from the county commission at the time, they reached out, to the sheriff's office. The sheriff definitely wanted to be a part of this, just to keep the peace, because we were just coming off of, in Salt Lake City, we'd never seen riots in Salt Lake before. Correct. And I had people I love dearly on the front line of that were injured by rioters and these law enforcement officers. And I know the sheriff had sent all of his free deputies to go cover UHP, who had to be, this was a scary, scary time. And people were getting killed. This was serious. And a lot of people were getting killed throughout that summer. And then for it to be coming to Tooele County, people were invited to come and speak, and you had decided against it. So
what had happened, though, and this is the nuance that most people don't know, is this was the week after Salt Lake.
Yeah.
The intelligence was the groups that incited the riots in Salt Lake were coming to Tooele. We had been quietly warning businesses of this, and businesses had been moving fixed assets away from their companies, boarding up windows. And we had been asked not to, as elected officials, go to those protests.
Well, you would be a target.
Exactly. And the police would have to be working to protect us, or we could incite it because we were there.
Right.
So I absolutely understand why Tony did what he did. This is where I think he and I would disagree. I not only stayed away, but we worked behind the scenes with the groups who came to find better ways. And that is one reason why the resolution on the sanctity of life was written. And so we do differ. And I really appreciated what Tony talked about. And this may sound odd in politics, okay? I'm glad he's running, because I think that as an elected official, you should have people challenge you.
I agree with you.
And challenge the thought process and challenge what the results are. Unfortunately, I disagree that he's the better candidate. I believe I am. And I think that over the course of my service, whether in the city or on the county, we've approached it the same way. And my wife has been such a great asset in this. When we sit down, we don't say we're going to run. We start out with, okay, if we run, what are we going to accomplish?
Yeah, what are our goals?
And in every race I have ran, I have outlined 4 goals to be accomplished. This is my 5th campaign, 2nd for this office. In that amount of time, there are only 2 goals we haven't accomplished.
Are you going to
Mhm.
share 'em?
Yeah. What are those goals?
The two goals. The first one was in 2001. I want to say it was 2001, 2000. In that area, we flooded and water went down 700 south and divided the community because it was a river. My goal was to get that piped to go underground, to put much like they do in Salt Lake with Cedar
Yep.
Creek.
And maybe build a cistern at the bottom and collect
That's
it.
an expensive goal, though.
It wasn't, and it was too expensive. And so what we did do is by the time, I think in my 13th or 14th year, we worked with our city engineer, Paul Hansen, and he did a great job planning this, our city attorney and our public works department, and bought property where we could curb both sides so that the water wouldn't go into people's yards. It had happened during that flooding. I knew all of those people very well. In my church responsibility, I was the bishop of that area, and I will never forget the damage to homes.
Oh,
And
That's
these
horrendous.
were new homes and people who couldn't afford it. And in a lot of ways, insurance didn't take care of it. That was one goal. The second goal that I have yet to accomplish is, and we're not done, is the connecting of water systems within this valley.
Yeah.
We thought we were there when I was here last time. We thought
Yeah.
we were there within weeks. We're not. We've taken 2 or 3 steps backward, but we're working towards that with our federal officials, our state officials, and we will continue talking with our local officials. But we have to understand one very important principle. Every day we don't do this is a day we get closer to the edge of catastrophe and development. And when I say catastrophe, the catastrophe is the state is going to come in and mandate zoning because
how can they do that?
because they do. They've done it on affordable housing, and that we are the overflow community for the Salt Lake economic engine.
So they can override you guys at the
absolutely.
council.
They've already. We faced this the last 5 years in every session that they can come
I
in
don't like
and
that at all.
usurp the zoning process. They do it in a lot of different ways. We don't want that, and we appreciate our legislators not doing it.
Right.
But we've got to come with a solution. Number 2, we have to understand that growth is going to come to this county, so we must be responsible and proactive. When we were in Washington, D.C., one of the tell-alls is we deal with a lot of things when we go to D.C. We deal with transportation, we deal with national defense, we deal with security. In my first breakfast with a member of one of our senator's staff, his first question is, where are you on water?
And that's your first question to them. Where are you on our water?
And when we said we've taken a step back, they were stunned. And they said, what are you going to do to get it back on track? And we are working very hard. We'll go back into discussions, but there is so much that has to be done.
Collaborations are
Matter.
difficult.
Well, they are.
And especially when we're in a county as big as we are and as different. See, I don't think a lot of people understand that we're not a county where everyone's the same. I mean, Jared and I are opposites in almost everything, but we are
Except
all free
for
thinkers.
luscious hair.
Yeah, we're all free thinkers. We all love our small town mentality feel. We love our neighbors. We love our community, but we're all individuals that are highly, we'll put the flag in and we'll hold our ground. So I can only imagine just with me being in an unincorporated area and me having an issue with my taxes and going to Jared and saying, look, I need you to step in here. And he's like, local government first.
Yep.
And he helped us collaborate, and we're still not really happy, but the
we're working.
collaborations are not easy as much as
No.
people think that, oh, well, you all should just be on the same page for the betterment of Tooele County. We should be, but there's a lot of sacrifice that gets involved in that.
There
And
is.
there's a lot of promises, and you got to make sure you can keep promises.
Well,
It's not easy.
And one of the things that I believe that we've really tried to hold to is our word is our bond. And that's cost us some money because there were agreements made prior to us coming here, but our word is our bond. And We will continue to work to get water taken care of. We'll continue to work with the cities on roads. I don't know if the citizenry knows this, but there has been an unprecedented investment in partnership between the cities and the counties in roads, in fixing them, improving them, or building them of $6 million in the last 3 years.
Is that for the whole county?
That's for cities. That's just what we've done in cities.
That's just helping
Amazing.
out. That's just helping out inside of cities. That's
Correct.
That's
if
amazing.
anyone has any questions, we got them for a little under 10 more minutes. Feel free to shoot questions at us. We're going to keep chatting.
And then, when it comes to the school district, we're working with the school district on, as we rebuild the Deseret Peak Pool, to be able to cover it so that schools can move in there, and we're
And have
working
their
on that
swim
collaboration.
teams and have their sporting events and unifying the county.
So collaboration to me is one of the most important things. And I saw the power of it when we built the educational corridor. And I think anyone who watches this, if you go to a neighbor or go to your street and say, how many of you have attended camp class at USU Tooele or at the Tooele Technical College? You all and we all know people who have done it, who have been blessed by it. That collaboration came because we sat down and questioned our own system. And the drawing of it was with state legislators. So think about this. You had state education, state legislators, university educators, Tooele County Commission, Tooele City, Grantsville City, all come together, and Tooele School District to build a corridor where someone could be educated from pre-K all the way through a master's degree.
I mean, that's where you get your wins. That's a lot of
And
chefs
that helps
to
draw
have in a
more
kitchen.
business
It
out.
does. It's the economic engine. And so, hindsight's always 20, and it will always have its critics. I'll be the first one to say that. And I love having those discussions with them. We may not agree, but we're not going to jeopardize the relationship.
Will you tell me, what are some things that you have dealt with that maybe didn't go your way, that you've had to kind of take that step back, eat the humble pie, and look at it again? Because I think just the fact that you're saying, hey, look, I'm not the same guy I was when I was on the council, and here I am again, and I've learned more, and still passionate, but
I can think of maybe 3 or 4 instances off the top of my head. My last year on Tooele City Council, I was voted down 4-1 on how do we give grants to businesses with the CARES money. And I appreciated the work of our fellow councilmen. We just disagreed in what it should look like. That's one that I still to this day think, not that I'm right and others are wrong, but I loved my approach. Okay?
you're right, and they're wrong, right?
I
have that happen all the time.
I can tell you on the county council, we disagreed on a RDA project pretty severely, and it was rezoning land off the Mormon Trail to become a solar panel area, and I lost that vote 4-1.
Were you for it?
I was against it.
I'm against it.
So we're getting a solar power plant off Old Mormon Trail.
We could. I don't know if it will happen, but it's zoned and it's been designated a redevelopment agency area. But let me tell you what we do now, though.
Well, I know they're building one at Big Springs out there on the other side of Chisholm.
So even though I lost, it is my job to go make it work better.
No, I love that.
And I think that those are very important battles. As we've talked about water, our first swing at the ball didn't go. It didn't happen. We thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So now we're getting ready for the second swing. We're not going to give up. We're going to find a way to get it done. I believe in the great general who said, we will either find a way or we will make one.
Yeah. Well, so is it just you're having a hard time with certain municipalities getting on board, or is there like mechanical holdups?
I think it's a difference in how people do practices. So for instance, a city may build a transfer station where you're pushing water back and forth differently than what we might be speccing out. But what we're speccing out is what we can afford.
So you're not, is what you're specking out like futuristic and efficiency, or is it what we can afford and it's going to be
just
different?
It's just different. So for instance, let's say we were doing this with Rush Valley, and Rush Valley likes their pump houses to be above ground. The technology that we've looked at and that is becoming much more common practice is to put those pumps underground in vaults.
Does that protect the water?
It protects the water and it saves about 2/3 of the cost.
And can you build on top of it or around it easier?
You would leave it uncut. You would build it in a vault. I mean, we have those all over the county.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that we'll be negotiating over the next little while. And hopefully we can get some movement on that.
Rush Valley is a city,
yeah,
right?
but
So they
I
have
just
their
used-
own area.
Yeah, they were just my example.
But
Being
it's true.
super loose
It's a
with
whole-
the word city
This
there.
is what
but-
people,
Yeah.
I think, don't really gather. You're the county umbrella, but these are whole cities with their whole councils and their own tax sources and their own rules. So it's really, really a really big accomplishment when you can get your wins.
Correct.
And I saw, the commission and you guys and Grantsville and Tooele City get your wins with like Mid-Valley Highway.
Correct.
And hopefully this isn't over and
It's not.
we
It
can
may
just
take-
find the right answers.
Yeah, I mean, we have to find the right way, which means we will go back to the drawing board. I can't think of how many businesses have been acquired where discussions have broken down, we're going our separate ways, and then we come back because we find a common way to do it.
Mm.
And I think that that's what we are pledged to do as a government.
Well, you said that civility.
And that's really what it is. One thing, and you'll probably hear me say this tonight in my convention speech, is that I believe that as elected officials, it is our job to speak truthfulness. We must speak it in love. And that's a term I don't think that we hear very often in government anymore. And that means
No,
when
never.
we talk about love, that we honor the individualism and the human dignity of the people that we may have differing ideas in. And we must differ without jeopardizing what we have in common.
It's so true.
That is where I believe our politics has fallen short. In the national scene and sometimes in our state scene, is that because we differ, we're not going to have anything in common. No, unite where we have commonalities. Where we are divided, let the process work and let the votes work.
Right.
Every one of the council members will tell you that I've ever worked with, the phrases I give to them as soon as they're elected, you need to remember, it all comes down to votes.
It's true.
Yeah.
Everything comes down
And
to a
you're
vote.
talking about, Ronald Reagan's soul philosophy. Agree with me 80% of the time.
Yeah,
And we're fine.
yeah,
And we'll have those disagreements 20%.
yeah.
And
I'm-
that's true. I can find common ground with almost anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that if we really, really wanted those relationships, and when you talk about individualism, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Because I think every single individual on this planet is here for this reason, in this time, in this moment, and they matter.
They do.
Every single soul matters. And I love that. I love the idea of dignity. And I love that you're actually admitting to growth, because a lot of people, passionate, competitive people, don't put themselves out there and go, hey, I've grown a lot and I'm still growing, and we all are.
And my background, I speak of this not often, but I was a high school and college debater and pretty
No
successful.
kidding. I would never.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And it was my job to win.
Right.
Winning and losing a friend is a loss.
I agree.
Winning, and I've done that, and I've recognized that, and I've tried to mend those fences. But just because we disagree, even after that, doesn't mean that we have to be enemies. I don't want enemies, and I don't want people to think I'm their enemy. And I know we were going to wrap up. If I can just finish with this.
Please do.
Yeah.
When we were negotiating the settlement of the Tooele City lawsuit, and we were in court, we were enemies. It was a hard lawsuit, a lot of recriminations against each individual, including myself. And I remember Jesus teaching that you should always be kind. And I probably did this in more of a sinister way to begin with, is I knew that if I said hello to my opponent, it would make them uncomfortable. And I enjoyed that. That was wrong.
Was it though?
It was wrong.
If you had the intent,
If I had the right intent.
if you have that intent, I agree with you there. You want to, your intention matters almost as much as your action.
But what I found over time during the lawsuit is my anger and my contempt for our opponents decreased. And I was able to start putting real faces with real lives after the lawsuit because of common people we know. And we had great members of our community who interceded because we couldn't talk to do what we call sideline diplomacy.
Yeah.
And when we came together, I vowed not to go in with hatred. And we set up a framework of discussion, which was, we are not going to relitigate. We are here to solve problems, and we are here to be fair. I don't like the word fair, but to be just with one another. After 3 negotiation sessions, there are some who disagree with the lawsuit settlement. We settled that lawsuit and saved the citizenry of Tooele City $10 million in cash.
That's incredible.
And
all because you put down the ego.
You put down the ego.
And you picked up the civility and the just looking at them as real people and not numbers. And
what's most important, they had an agenda. We had an agenda. And I wish I would have been able to practice that more often when I was younger.
Yeah, me too. I wish.
But
so much.
I think I've learned over time that if we can stay in that place, we get a lot more done. And those individuals I talk to still, they talk to me. We disagree. I know some of the people that I served with at that time disagree with the lawsuit settlement, and I understand their disagreement. But there was no other plan. And this plan allowed us to build commercial. It allowed us to build areas that would be great for our schools. It allowed a temple to be built in Tooele City for those of my religion, which is a great blessing to us. We see that. And so I would only hope that we could continue to see those things and put down some of the arms. And when we disagree, say, okay, look, you and I, we're going to have a contentious conversation. We may disagree, but when we walk out, I don't want to hate you.
Right. You matter. I matter.
You matter.
Your family's important.
Yeah.
And that is a good message, that two people may see things different than each other, and their goals may be different, but that doesn't mean one goal is evil. I mean,
no. The greatest intellect is found when you can take two opposing truths and have them in your mind at the same time and see them both.
That's so true.
The dichotomy of man.
Well,
now, I do have one question. Your religious school, it's LDS oriented. I'm asking this mostly for my father, I think, but do you have a class there on J. Golden Kimball?
We don't, but we talk about him a lot.
Oh, I'm sure you do. That's how you get people in.
Jay Golden, I think is one of the greatest dichotomies from my religion. And it's because you had a very imperfect person who was raised in a ranching society.
Openly imperfect.
And that he became an apostle, which also says that men aren't perfect.
I would almost argue he got forced into being an apostle.
He didn't want it.
He didn't want the mission. No. He didn't want the getting called back to run the southern states. He didn't.
but look at what he accomplished because of what he believed. And this is the religious side, because of what he believed in Jesus Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have several friends that are Muslim, and I absolutely honor their religion. I am so saddened to see what is happening in Israel and in Palestine. It broke my heart the week of October 7th.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's ugly.
What is happening in Ukraine. I also understand, though, you have to defend your family. You have to defend your freedom. You have to defend your religions. And when those defenses come, it is incumbent upon leaders to solve those problems quickly. And we are not doing that.
Well,
No.
I find it hard. I just thought of this when you were talking a minute ago. The best people to go along to get along are followers. But you're not going to often get followers to get into a leadership position.
I would agree.
And so leaders, they're used to having their way, but they make things happen.
Yeah.
Even if right or wrong, so leaders get into leadership positions. And when you have a multi-position board, if you will, there's going to be conflict. And
When you get good leaders, though, they're walking beside their followers. They're not necessarily leading like normal. They're encouraging, they're inspiring, they're empowering, and they're finding the best in those people. Because we always need someone to follow and someone to lead. That's just humanity and the human brain. But it is a beautiful thing to watch a group get inspired after the same goal, and there's always that leader. But it's very organic how it happens.
Well, to your comment, Jared, my feelings about taxation changed one day. Tooele City, when I was there almost 7 years ago, there was a proposed increase of 128%. And there needed to be an increase. There hadn't been one in 30 years.
Yeah.
And someone who lives not too far from you invited me to their home one night, and they brought all their children in and sat down and said, "Can we talk about the tax increase because you represent us?" I said, "Sure." And they said, "Let me tell you what this looks like using the figure that was being proposed at 128%. They had a few children. And when I say a few, it's more than 4, more than 6.
Wow.
oh,
And
hitting it
they
hard out of the park.
They said this: "Our children get one pair of shoes that are new a year. Which one of my kids will not get new shoes next year and the year after?"
Well, that hits home, doesn't
And
it?
so,
We are hitting a hard time, and we're hitting we're coming out of the economic boom that was kind of set up in the 80s.
yeah,
And this is just, we're all going to have to learn these lessons.
yeah.
Like your nightly double cheeseburger, that's going to have to go away.
Yeah,
just
remember when
for
that was on the dollar menu?
I do. Now it's $3.
Yeah.
just for and it ain't done yet.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
But I think that's where government and elected leaders just can't say, "We're going to hold the tax rate."
Mhm.
This is why I wish that the government, like our Congress,
Correct.
had to work out of Utah, out of their districts, not in DC,
Well, not
where
just
they're seeing these families.
Yeah,
They're
and-
seeing the effects of
and-
their
And
bills.
that changed my whole view on taxation, because I can hold the tax rate, and that means I'm going to get more money. But that's still a tax increase.
Right.
yeah.
But when you put it in terms of people, you put it in terms of fixed
Needs.
incomes.
Yeah.
You put it, and that's why I think we are so pleased that when we look at what has happened in Tooele County government, our employees, we did a study, and our employees we found were being underpaid, and we brought them up to market.
That includes your law enforcement.
Correct. In fact,
Because
it
like
was
what Tony mentioned,
they who started it.
yeah, you guys were getting poached the same as Tooele
Mhm.
City, and you couldn't blame these officers and deputies
Absolutely not.
for leaving. But you also needed to find out what exactly was going on with
And
the
And
state.
that's where we probably differed. We offered an immediate incentive to stay.
Mhm.
We then brought in a consultant to look at all of our pay, except the county councils.
Yeah, I appreciated
And
that.
we brought everyone up. There was a 2-step recommendation. We brought everyone up to step 2 without a tax increase.
And
So
as
Again,
you,
I thought for sure you guys would take that moment because,
Yep.
and I wouldn't have blamed you.
yeah,
You know me.
yeah,
I was not about to have the first year, the first time vote to go with higher wages and all that. But after watching your guys' work and how how well you had done this, and then really putting it together and how many hours you're putting in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have argued if you had given yourself a raise.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay yourselves $90,000 a year, but to have said, hey, let's add maybe insurance, that would be a huge help or something like that. But you didn't.
No,
you did a study without your counsel involved.
And you know what? I think we're according to our peers, we're underpaid. According to how I feel, I'm blessed.
Well, yeah, because it's a service.
Well,
You're doing public service.
And maybe that's the ideal way government's supposed to run.
It
Is
used to
that
be, right?
government is supposed to be a voluntary sacrifice you do for your community.
And then you go home and you don't go to Washington, D.C. and forget where
Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you guys. I sure appreciate the
Do
time.
you have anything you want to close? I mean, you're really
He does
deep.
not have a website.
Nope.
I looked him up. There's apparently a world-renowned programmer. You can go to his website,
Well-
but you can go to the website that'll function for him, TooeleCounty.org.
And Facebook.
And I do have a Facebook, a Scott Wardle Tooele County District 1 Facebook page.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I pulled back a lot from public space in the electronic world a few years ago because of some warnings and some safety issues.
Mm.
And so you don't see me publish a lot because of those. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because there is a safety component, at least for me.
I had the same issue.
And so I've gone out of that public space a little bit. I put a little bit on for this campaign, not a lot, but I have thoroughly enjoyed my discussions with our delegates. I've met with them. I've talked with them on the phone. We have texted. I am so grateful for their willingness to stand up and serve, and that the people who not only run for office, and that's why I say I appreciate Tony. We served together. We agreed on a lot of things together. We disagreed on some things together. I'm grateful for the challenge of ideas, and I would just invite those who can to come to the convention tonight. You will see some differences, and I hope that I get the right to earn the votes to serve another 4 years. So,
And if you're undecided, come meet them both tonight.
Well, and citizens are welcome. Doesn't have to just be delegates. We want anybody to come out tonight that wants to see the process and get to know Scott Wardle. And is your wife going to be with you?
she will be with me
Excellent.
tonight. Yeah, I wish my
The
kids
brains
were.
behind the operation.
She is by far the better of us.
I know that Scott asked to be released 15 minutes ago, but we're going to cut him loose real quick.
Okay.
We'll be right back in 2 minutes after we walk him out. All right, we're back.
That
Sorry
was fun.
for the hold up. Holly has to do some last minute planning with contestants.
Guys,
Anyways,
I really hope that if you can make it tonight, the reception starts at 6 p.m. Tooele High School Auditorium. We have invited every state and federal and county candidate. We have candidates from within the party that are coming, that are running for like a national states councilwoman and councilman. And those individuals help raise money both nationally and locally, and they are elected to represent Utah on the national party stage. So it's a lot of, I mean, if you're really nerdy about politics, this is just fun. And a lot of the candidates, you know, are going to be here live and in person. And if you're headed to state convention next Saturday at the Salt Palace, if you've never been before, it's usually before convention starts, this great big area where all the candidates are and 4,000 delegates are trying to get in front of them and talk to them. That's why county conventions are so cool, because we're breaking it up and it's maybe 100 and there's plenty of, it's more intimate. So I hope that you guys will make it. And if you're just a regular voter who wants to be informed and share some ideas about the county or talk to delegates, even come out.
Yeah.
You're invited.
It should be a good time. Not to mention Holly is wearing about the coolest dress she could wear tonight.
It's really fun. It's vintage 50s.
Yeah, she looks like Leave It to Beaver's mom.
Or Donna Reed. Do people know who Donna Reed is?
I'm going to say I don't.
Okay. She was like Leave It to Beaver. Maybe she was Leave It to Beaver's mom, actually. Mom, are you on? Tell me, is Donna Reed Leave It to Beaver's mom? Or did she have her own show?
Now,
I remember the Donna Reed show, I thought.
Now, Celeste Malloy, we talked about it. She called me back. I messaged her and she called me back and explained to me.
Okay, well, why don't you...
about her vote on the FISA vote. It was a cordial conversation because,
we've heard from a lot of you regarding Celeste's vote with Blake Moore. Were they the two out of Utah?
Yes.
So why don't you give a quick synopsis of what?
So she called me and she said, okay, here's
what the vote is.
The vote was the re-up of the
FISA
702 law, whatever it is. And I'll be honest, I was a little heartbroken when that vote came through. I think our government is overreaching disastrously. Not overreaching a little bit, but disastrously.
They are in real time violating our constitutional rights and have been since 2001 when the Patriot Act was first put in place. And
they always have been. That was when they kind of codified it.
This is when they kind of, they made it Homeland Security and TSA, and all in the name of security. We gave up freedom. And this is what we thought coming to a head once the FBI was found to have lied to a FISA court. And this is all facts, folks.
Well, they lied to
spy on Donald Trump in his campaign.
Yes.
When he was running against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that what was that general's name that I forget his name, but they had lied. The FBI had lied. They'd left out the CIA's response because
on the dossier.
The guy talked to a Russian agent or a Russian individual, and right after he went right to the CIA and said, I talked to him. This is what we talked about. He had been, I don't want to say an informant for the CIA, but he had been in close ties with the CIA the whole time. He was a retired, I think, lieutenant general in the Army. And so the FBI contacts CIA. CIA said, yep, we got the file right here. He told us the same day. Well, when the FBI applied for the FISA warrant, they left that out, which is why that FBI lawyer got in trouble, got a slap on the wrist.
But James Coney got in trouble, but nothing really happened.
Well, no, it was the lawyer that got in trouble. He lost.
No, I mean, when it came out later that under his watch they had lied and he didn't come clean, and the many opportunities he'd had, and I guess it really upset the FISA court judges because they were like, "This isn't how it's supposed to work."
It did, and then,
but how badly? Because here we are again.
Worse than that, it came out a couple months ago that the FBI has abused that. I think 480,000 times.
And they've used it and they've never been denied.
So
right?
I think we need to
been denied maybe once or twice. And
yeah, I think the FISA court is, it's a horrible system. We were a system that was meant to be
checks
free
and balances.
And with free comes danger. We were meant to have a semi-dangerous.
And there wasn't any checks and balances on this FISA court. It's kept secret.
No.
Right? Like the public doesn't know who the judges are. These people that are in it aren't elected or anything. So anyway, the bill, you said 7. What?
I don't remember the bill's name off the top of my head.
725 or something. You said
it was like 702.
702.
That is what the FBI uses with the FISA courts.
Okay, so what was it?
But anyway, so the update to the FISA court, and I'm turning on my headphones so I can see if we can. I was thinking we'd watch Celeste's video that she put out on it.
But why we've asked and why he reached out to Celeste. If you watched Wednesday night, I mean, he was very upset. And so were a lot of you. We've heard from a lot of you, and I've heard from voters from the party, and we've heard from you, our viewers, regarding the votes. And so you asked her prior when she was here last time.
Yeah, I sent her a message.
No, when she was here last time,
she said
she wasn't going to be.
I didn't even ask her. She brought that up.
Right. She had said she wasn't going to be voting for any more spending bills. Is that right?
She said she wants to do away with the FISA court system. I'm digging back. I haven't rewatched our show, but she said she wants to do it. That she thinks it's a breach of the Constitution, which I agree. Now, this is a video she put out 7 days ago. I have not watched it. This may not cover this current situation, but we're going to find out together and comment on it. And then after this, I'm going to tell you what she told me over the phone. And she said she's going to put together a little packet. I requested a little message explaining everything so that I can, on the show, I'm sure we'll have her back on as soon as she can.
This is the thing that I have to just reiterate. You're in contact with our congresswoman.
I know.
You've texted you.
I texted her and she called me back.
Or called you back. You guys, this is something that is very special about Celeste and about this relationship. We told you last time when we had questions about a vote, within 12 hours, she was up here in Tooele County on our show in studio. So I can never, anybody that says she is not on top of it or in the district she serves or ignores you, I could never say that about her because I've never had her not answer. In fact, I told Jared last night, or Wednesday night, he's like, just give her a call. I says, I want you to call her because I didn't want her to think that she's got to answer because of what I do for the party. I wanted her to answer because someone was asking, and wow, she did.
Yeah.
So I hope that
I
matters.
messaged her at 9 a.m. and she called me back at about 11:30 and said, okay, here's what I do. And I want to give her an honest handshake. I'm going to tell you what she told me. I was buying drywall material in Home Depot, so I couldn't write it down.
You have such
But
an exciting day.
I know I've been drywalling all week, but I will pass on to the best of my knowledge. And then the minute she gets the little packet together, and I will message her and remind her, because I know she's got a lot going on.
She has to be in DC this weekend.
Yeah,
There's a vote happening on the budget
she got a vote to
Ukraine and Israel, which I don't want any more spending bills. We don't have it to spend. And these people, both sides are using the money to build walls and things like that. And here we've got an invasion happening in our own country.
They're borrowing money from our great grandkids to give it to other people. It's just ridiculous. But anyways,
so I hope that she will vote against it. That would be my wish.
Let's hear it. And she also has a YouTube channel, Celeste Malloy. Rep Celeste Malloy is her YouTube channel. You can go there and check her stuff out. But let's kick this up and see what she says on this right here. I'm going to be playing. Man, that is awful quiet one. We might rewind this real quick.
Okay, so if there's a way to get the volume up on her a little bit.
Yeah, I can play with a couple settings here, see what I can get out of it.
And I have to say, I've seen, I know many of you have seen the smearing and the allegations. And I mean, I've seen them in delegate groups. I've seen people really get heated about this race. And I think we take a lesson from what Scott said today. Can we just remember that we're all individuals and we all have families, and, you know, yes, politics can be ugly and messy, but at the end of the day, if we could just give each other the dignity, and we are the type that we would rather ask her about her votes, and we've never had her not answer. So we also had Colby Jenkins on. We had Ty Jensen on. We enjoyed both of them. I mean, this is a really hard race. There's a lot of good people here, but I hope that we don't get too involved in the mudslinging folks, because I'm one of those voters that gets turned off quickly when you have to badmouth another candidate rather than defending your own race. You have to go after someone else. I'm not saying don't bring up important points and debate. I absolutely love that. I think we keep it classy. And, you know, if you have a question, if someone's thrown out an allegation, I hope you'll reach out to that candidate, whoever it is. And on both sides, ask the candidate why they feel this way, and then ask the person who's getting accused of something if it's true or not. Again, you guys, we're just voters and civilians sitting here in our counties and our district, but they work for us, and this is a job interview, and that's exactly what is happening right now. They are interviewing for a job to represent us. So ask as many questions as you can. And Celeste will have a representative there tonight at the convention, even though the Congress is not supposed to be home this weekend. So that's Mike Johnson's rule.
All right, let's see if I figured this out.
I've said that there are 3 filters all of my votes go through, and one of them is, does it make Americans more free? And this vote today makes Americans more free. So let me explain, because there's a lot of bad information out there. So the FISA reform bill that passed out of the House today has 56 important reforms to protect Americans from rogue federal law enforcement, including the criminal penalty for leaking a FISA application, 10 years in prison, and a $250,000 fine. That's substantial. The penalty for leaking 702 information, 8 years in prison, and a $250,000 fine. These sort of threats keep law enforcement in line and help make Americans more free. There's a tenfold increase for unauthorized collection. It goes from a $1,000 fine to a $10,000 fine. That's substantial. The FBI agents who lie to FISA judges, remember the Carter Page thing? That's what happened. They had a warrant, but they lied to get the warrant. Someone who does that will automatically be fired. This kind of accountability is really important in protecting Americans' freedom and making sure that FISA, which is an important tool, doesn't get abused. The FBI director's compensation hinges directly on compliance with the query requirements. They can't just run people's names through this database or they will lose their job. These are things that are really important to me. There were 6 amendments. I voted with Jim Jordan on all of them. We didn't get all of the wins we wanted out of it, but the underlying reforms that we did get that make it so that FBI agents are accountable if they're abusing Americans are big reforms. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is a win for the American people.
Man, that girl can talk fast.
Yes. Okay. So let me turn this back down. There's a delay in my ear. It throws me off. So there's what they did is they put teeth against the FBI so
I think it made sense. It made sense. Now they're actually putting criminal charges against rogue law enforcement agents who lie to FISA courts, who obtain.
Also, Congress gets a report. Carter Page was that general's name.
Right.
Congress gets a report weekly, I believe she said on the phone. Every time there is a FISA warrant issued, they get a report.
Who in Congress gets it?
I'm not sure. It would probably be but she on the phone, she just told me Congress did. It's good. It's messed up in my head because I was listening to the delay and the timed one to make sure the sound was right. There are judicial punishments for FBI agents who abuse it. I think that's another good thing. The FBI ran hard and fast. They should have. This has nothing to do with her. The Congress should have brought judicial punishments down when J. Edgar Hoover was still in charge of the FBI, because the FBI, we know that they went after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., told him to commit suicide. Recorded him stepping out on his wife and threatened to release that to his wife if he didn't commit suicide because he was anti-war.
Is that absolutely proven?
Yes. That's been redacted. That's been laid out. They did do that. COINTELPRO, for all you Republicans right now, these things you're living through right now with the way January 6th is treated, the way a lot of the way that Donald Trump has been treated, through the court system, all that. These were all processes that were perfected during COINTELPRO, which was, a lot of people look at that like it was to go after subversive groups within our country. But it was to go after anyone who was anti-war. That was their number one objective. The Black Panthers weren't the enemy of the state because they were black ethno-nationalists, because they were.
I have to leave around 4, right?
Yes, I do. They were enemies of the state because they were against the war. They were telling young black men who our government really wanted to send over to some little sliver of a country in Southeast Asia. They were telling them to burn their draft cards, to not sign up for the draft, to avoid it. But anyways, so I think these are positive steps. I'm still not happy with, and I'm not saying this to speak up for Celeste Malloy. I definitely want her to come on and hot seat it. I believe these are positive steps forward. I wonder, I would like to see some evidence that the FISA courts have aided the general populace in the United States.
Yeah, me too. I want to see
Before
if
we
they've-
continue going, I would like to see that it has actually worked.
Can I just ask though, how would you, at this point with the government, would you believe them if they said they have? Like how many foiled efforts
That's a good point.
have the FBI
Tell me about
foiled, but
remember
yet how many were involved in
the
those
shoe
efforts?
bomber, the underwear bomber, all the
The
times the TSA
kidnapping of
fails.
that governor.
Yeah, the Whitmer kidnapping, where out of 18 people, 12 of them were
or
FBI.
So, and this is nothing against good FBI agents. I think the
I'm
leadership
sure there's
is the
one or two of
problem
you out
in-
there.
I think the leadership is the problem. I know there's excellent FBI agents out there, and I just wonder, would we believe it if they said Homeland Security just put out a report and they've stopped 5,000 terrorist attacks? That you get to sleep at night because they're on the watch. I mean, the Patriot Act has in fact saved lives. Well, how do they prove it? How do they convince a public that is so betrayed?
I would even be okay if they showed me how the Patriot Act stopped domestic people, but that hasn't even been proven to me. All these times, like the school shooting that David Hogg was, a victim of, and all that. The one down in Texas and Udovi,
Yeah.
all those things.
At the Christian school?
No, the Christian school also, but those two particularly.
How about Vegas?
Vegas, that's.
I mean, seriously.
My conspiracy is
they just closed it and we're like,
that
sorry.
was the way the FBI's acted makes me think the FBI did that, because the FBI just buttoned that down and said, "Oh,
It
nothing to
was
see here.
very
Move
strange.
along. Largest shooting in U.S. history." And see you later. But anyways, the one in Florida that David Hogg was a part of, and the Udovi one,
I think that's right.
Those people were both on the radar of local police, local sheriffs, and the FBI. And
you know what? I think the last,
probably
not the very last one, but there was like 3. The one in Florida
but I want to
at
say
the bar.
the
That
FBI's
person was on the radar.
the FBI's watching this. That kid in Texas, he buys an expensive truck. He buys a Daniel Defense AR-15. Now I know, for those of you who don't shoot, Daniel Defense, what is he saying? That's, I don't know what he's saying. Sorry. Everyone's just watching me.
Yeah, just get to it because I got to get out of here.
I know you do. Hold on. He has a Daniel Defense AR. That's at least a $1,600 rifle when your average AR is $700. That's a high level AR. He's got thousands and thousands of rounds of ammo, lives with his grandma on Social Security, and he works at Wendy's. How did he accumulate these things? Why is it when the FBI knows of him? And if there's an FBI agent out there watching or listening, please come on, prove me wrong, tell me where I'm wrong, correct me. But if you're going to have all these different things that subdue that take away our freedoms for security, and you're not delivering security, give us back the freedoms. There you go. I don't want you taking away my freedoms for security anyway, but some Americans might. I'm sure there's a purple-haired they, them who would prefer security. But you're delivering neither. I mean, you are living up to Benjamin Franklin's promise. Those who want to give up freedom for security shall receive neither. And that's where we are. That's what we're getting. So I don't know. I know I was busted up and brokenhearted about when she voted on that. Holly says I was. Apparently, I let my feelings show. I'm not supposed to, except for humor. That's my normal mode. Anyways.
No, I love when but it made my heart hurt a little bit because, you know, you felt really disappointed.
Yeah, I did. Lake and Riley's murder suspect has been released, but then you read into it. It sounds like he ended up going to state custody. I wanted to dig in more on that, but we're out of time there. I also wanted to dig in more on the furry stuff. I actually want to have Adam come on the show and chat with us about it, what it was like chatting with all those kids. I think that's real interesting. If anyone doesn't know, a guy on the network, Adam Bartholomew, he was the one who went out and went to that Nebo Junior High School and interviewed all those kids, which they're the best part of that because you hear them. They're like chickens clucking. They all talk at once. And then they hear a question. They all answer at once. And it was perfect because just kids off the hip. I do want to know more about this. I mean, right now, someone needs to see what's going on in that school. They need to see if they're really putting a litter box in there. How big is a people litter box also? But just so many questions. But anyways, Holly has to get out of here. She's got to go do her convention thing.
Our convention thing.
I'm not a Republican.
Tooele County.
Yes. So
This has been a lot of work, and I have to say that I have such a phenomenal team and that helped make this possible. Whit Cook and Alan Layton, my vice chair. And we just recently had our secretary resign. And I mean,
so if anyone wants to try their hand at being
love her,
being a secretary,
but it's been a collaboration, and none of this gets done without a team effort and with the support of our party members and those that donate. And we're always asking for donations. I would be remiss if I didn't. And, you know, if you have a Venmo and you feel like throwing some dollars towards the party, I promise you this, I'm extremely frugal. And we only decide with our central committee how to spend the money. And we try to do it during the big races. For the general, we try to donate to campaigns and help our local candidates. But we're at Tooele-GOP if you would like to assist us with our efforts. And we hope, our team hopes, to plan a fundraiser this summer where you can bring your family out, and we'll try to plan a barbecue or something just to keep the community together and just help us all remind these folks who are running for office that we aren't going away. And when they make us a promise, we are going to hold them to it, because that's how we're going to get any change, by actually all of us staying vigilant and staying engaged. And I've heard from so many people that have said that this show has helped them get to know candidates. And I feel like we're doing a really good thing.
I hope so.
We probably annoy people sometimes because we're just all politics, but I promise we're going to do fun stuff. This is fun to me. I love this, and I think he's having fun too.
Yeah. This isn't torture. This isn't,
I didn't hear you say the word at all today.
Pythagoras getting his eye picked out by the crow every day or whatever.
You didn't even say it.
I didn't have to
bring it up.
Do I have to? But who am I going to say it about, Scott?
No,
about
government and about, I don't know, just the torture
even
of being
about
on a show with me.
Celeste. I mean, I don't want you to have to do it. Though that's when we get in. Don't worry, it'll be brought up when we get into subjects. Right now, Donald Trump's in court in New York. I'm sure that's going to go legitimate and all above board.
Jurors are being doxxed and announced their names.
How about the judge, for no reason, ordered him he couldn't go to his kid's graduation. And then the judge says he can't go to the Supreme Court for the arguments that his party is introducing there. we're in a wild time. This is very interesting. I don't know. I mean, Rolling Stone says that the prosecution's gonna lose that one, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they're trying to get him elected. Maybe the Democrats are playing 4D chess and they're saying, get him elected for the financial collapse that's coming, and then they'll blame the Republicans, and then we can foster in our new progressive era. Because, man, me personally, I've said this on the show, I've said it to you privately, Holly, I would not want to be in charge during a collapse, because your ideas will be shunned forever. And that's where we are, where there's, in every direction, every push has destroyed us. I'm going to try something tonight, though. So I'm going to go to this convention thing. I'm going to try to make it so that I can stream from all these different platforms on my phone. Wish me luck.
And you're going to have a co-host.
Yeah, Tim Jimenez will be joining us. He's our local state rep. He's our Tooele rep. He'll be joining us. You actually have Belinda's yours in Grantsville, right?
Yep, Bolinder.
Yeah.
Bridger.
Tim Jimenez, he kicks off down here in the
and
southern.
he's got parts of Stansbury, but he's got a more near the clubhouse. And then Bridger has more where I live, and then on to Grantsville and is it Grand County?
Grand? You mean Juab?
Juab, and there's another one. Box Elder? I don't know. I just know that he's
up
in
into
a lot
Box
of different
Elder.
places.
Yeah. Box Elder is a county north of us. Horrible deer hunting, apparently. But then again, they should still, kangaroo tags, because there ain't deer either. But anyways, and I have to give an update. My beer did finish. It's conditioning right now in the keg,
and nobody's touching it to break it.
Actually, I've been dipping on it.
It's been burning your lips off.
You're gonna have to give it just
Tell
a
them
taste.
what it is, though. The jalapeno.
It's a jalapeno lime pilsner. It's got a little bit of heat to it. It's lovely. But anyways, so we're gonna sign off here, so Holly can go do her thing. And then I'm going to try to go live from there. If I can't get everything live from there all at once, we'll just probably go to Facebook Live by itself, because that's super simple. But we're going to try it. Everyone, have a wonderful night. Have a good weekend. Humana. If I don't see you, and if I do see you, you can expect some exciting. It's not the... She's not listening now. It's not the caucus. It's a convention talk.
It's like calling the bride on her wedding day.
Oh.
When you have an event planned in like 2 hours, and everybody's calling the person who's planning the event with all the little questions. And it's like, oh yeah. It's exhausting, but again,
I'm sure.
I love it. I'm passionate about it. I love you guys, and we love the support, and we really love the attention on Wednesday. We had so many people tune in, and Jared and I think we should probably do another Wednesday show, because we've got a couple candidates we still need to get talking to.
Yeah.
One of them is Brad Bonham, who's running for national committee man.
Okay. And I think we'll have a couple of extra Wednesday shows, because it is an election year, and we are going to get the Democrats and the independents and the libertarians.
I mean, if they want to come on.
And the Green Party, I'm going to try.
Them maybe.
I really want them to come on, at least so that they can come on and say, hey, this is who I am. I want to offer that advertisement universally to all of them. And I'll try to be nice. When they tell me they want to take away guns, I'll try to be nice. I'll try to not tell them how wrong they are. But anyways, you guys have a good hour until I try to come back on.